There we go. And now we're going to hit record in three, two. Welcome to another episode of Million Dollar Stories, where we get to interview authors from all over the world. I'm extremely excited about this podcast because we were able to work with him on his book. And now he has some funnels been placed and he's putting together all types of content to help share the message that lays or lies within the book itself. So, the one we're talking about today is if you're out there and you're looking to start or grow a business, I believe you need to be a very disciplined individual. And this podcast will be perfect for you because the book we're talking about is the book that we're talking about today on this podcast is The Self-Disciplined Man, the life hack few are using. And we have the best-selling author that just hit number one a couple of weeks ago, Richard Bischoff. Thanks so much for being here, man.
Oh man, I'm excited to be on here with you, brother. Appreciate it.
Finally, we get the podcast scheduled and we're able to stick to it. So it was a couple weeks ago that we hit number one. Let's start off with the feeling of hitting number one. What was it like on the day of the bestseller push, and what has happened since then, man?
Yeah, I mean, it felt surreal. I think just seeing that I sold a book. You spend you spend so much time writing it and really pursuing that idea of writing a book. I didn't even tell anybody I was writing the book, not even my parents or my fiance, until I was about 80-90% done the book. Just to make sure I was actually going to do it and complete it. So to go from there to getting a copy in the mail as I'm editing it, and then to actually push for bestseller and hit it within 4 or 5 hours was a pretty phenomenal feeling.
Man, yeah, it's such a game changer. You have the bestseller badge on the book, and I would assume most people are now starting to look at you in a different way, right? Wow, I had no idea you were an author, now a best-selling author, and therefore they're very curious about what you do on a day-to-day basis. So this self-disciplined man, the strategies within, I'm assuming that are just ingrained that you might even take for granted now. But what are you teaching to people? What is in the book, and why did you want to write a book?
Yeah, I mean, well, I turned 40 last year, so that was the year of reflection and a year of really self-evaluation. Is like on certain markers, I exceeded where I would have thought I was going to be at 40. And then there's certain markers that was like, man, knowing what I know, I should be further along in these other markers. So I kind of just sat down and I was like, man, why was it so easy for me to do some things and not other things? And I looked at the times I had the most success in my life, and then the areas I had the most success in my life, I was the most disciplined. And then the areas I had the least amount of success, it was the areas I was least disciplined. So I just started to put that down on paper. And I was like, man, there's probably a lot of other guys. And I really focused it towards men just because I'm a guy. So it was easy for me to pinpoint that. But a lot of men struggle these days, I think, with their identity and who they are, and really just their value. Like what value do we have as men in this society that really degrades men? And I just felt like, man, there's probably other guys struggling with this. So let me put this down. And yeah, once I had the book done and hit best-selling author, especially for people who didn't know I was even writing the book, their viewpoint of me definitely changed a little bit. So it was pretty cool to see that.
One of the quotes that stands out in the book right out of the gate is the Darren Hardy quote. You make your choices and then your choices make you. It makes me think of a great quote. It's I think I posted it not too long ago. You either get paid for the choices you made 5 years ago or you pay for the choices you made 5 years ago. And I thought to myself, man, really, this does tie all in together with this Darren Hardy quote because you are a product of your habits, of all your actions, right? Everything culminates at a certain point, either a positive way or a negative way. So did you realize this at 40 that, oh my God, uh, who I am is based off of every action or thought that I had 5 years ago, who I've surrounded myself with the past 5 years, and pretty much everything you do in life, there's a delayed effect of whether it works or not. So when did you realize this, and is this something you teach now to potentially your clients or people who just ask you questions?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I realized it 15 years ago, but sometimes we know the right thing yet don't do the right thing. So I've actually met Darren Hardy several times. I spoke on stage at conferences with him. He was a big mentor of mine, and his book, The Compound Effect, is really what launched the whole habits and two people making different decisions on day one or day seven don't make that big of an impact, but you do it for years and you make the right or wrong decision and you have completely different outcomes 10 years from now. And so I did know it, but I didn't apply it to every aspect of my life. The fitness side was always an easy one for me, but the financial side, not making it, never really had too big of an issue making money. It's what I did with the money I made. I was not disciplined in that area. So at 40, it was a wake-up call.
Well, when it comes to discipline, I do realize how everything is connected, right? Your spiritual side, mental side, physical side, finances, everything really does tie into what you do on a day-to-day basis, how you think on a day-to-day basis. And so I realize that, it could be broken down into how much sleep am I getting? What am I doing on a day-to-day basis in the morning before 9 a.m.? Having the discipline to say yes to things, to say no to others, it does really translate into every aspect of my life, but it was a slow progress. So did that happen with you also that, oh, wait a second, you mean if I get my health right, that I start to focus on saying no to going out to the bars with the guys and to start really managing my time better, breaking it down to 15-minute increments rather than worry about just day-to-day progress. Like everything started to get tighter and tighter, and I became more specific. So it wasn't all at once, but 5 or 6 years of this evolution really did show how everything is tied together, whether you realize it or not. So is that with you too? Did you realize it right out of the gate, or has this something that did you know this? Did you just experience this over the past couple years also?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a gradual, like I said, certain areas were easier for me. So it was a gradual effect. But I think it also had to do, and I talk about it in the book, the law of association. Like it's who you're surrounded by. And if you're not surrounded by people who are achieving at a high level, then you're usually not going to achieve at a high level. And for me, I've always kind of had my groups of friends segregated. And very few of them were well rounded in all areas where they were making money, but they were also fit and they were also spiritually sound and they had good marriages and good relationships. And so for me, it was like I was doing better than most of my friends in each of these categories. But yet, if I got myself out of those friend groups, and I looked at people online like you and other mentors and people you watch, it's like, wow, okay, I'm doing good in my little bubble, but I'm really not where I should be or where I could be. And Jim Rohn has one of my favorite quotes, and it's really just a question. And it says, if you could do better, should you? And it really hit me. And I was like, man, I could do a lot better, even on my fitness and on my finances and on my relationships. And so last year was just a year of leveling up for me and raising my standards. Because I can't remember who said it. It might have been Jordan Peterson, but they said you always fall to your standards. So like you might try hard and then you fall back down to your standards. So unless you raise your standards, you're going to constantly fall back down to wherever your standard level is. And so for me, this last year has really just been leveling up, raising my standards. And it's a journey, because it's not easy to be disciplined because everybody would do it if it was easy.
And it's a great point there. You will always fall to your standards. And there's a thermostat in your brain when it comes to your finances. You know how, like, when you look at your bank account, what number makes you nervous? That's the number you need to raise. So when
Yeah.
people started to showcase that you will always fall to that number that makes you nervous, it's weird how all of your actions will stem from that feeling. Okay, it's getting down to this number. I better start to sell more. I better do more. I better start to save more. Whatever it is, you change based off of that standard that you set. And that's going to shine through in your health, even, right? So, how do you look in the mirror? Or how do you feel throughout the day? And I think when I look at you, man, you're a very big fitness guy, right? You're a spiritual guy, but also a fitness guy. And I think that as time went on, I used to think that I was a fitness guy in high school and college, but I still used to drink like a fish, right? So I really wasn't a major fitness guy. I just had this standard in my mind that as long as I look this way, I was able to perform this way on the hockey rink, and I could still drink like a fish, and it didn't affect anything. But as time went on, I did start to notice that the moment I gave up orange juice and milk and sugary drinks, I started to feel better, look better, and my standards were starting to get a little bit more refined. And I was increasing the level that I expected out of myself. So um, these standards, like you said, that comes from people. Do you also start to elevate your standards out of fear that you are aging and you're not getting somewhere, or maybe you should be further along and therefore you kind of use this energy that comes from fear to your advantage? Where do these standards come from outside of your network?
Well, I think a lot of the standards come from your belief system, which gets shaped by your parents, or gets shaped by your faith, or gets shaped by your friend group, and then that in return really shapes your identity. And I talk about that in the book. Is changing your identity, because how you identify is really the standard you fall back to. And that's one thing I really wanted to do. I really wanted to change my identity to be like, my identity is someone who is disciplined. My identity is someone who is wise with their money. My identity is someone who wakes up and works out, whether I feel like it or not. I go to the gym. It does not matter. My feelings is what I do. And so for me, just shaping that identity of who I am as a person, and also writing this book, man, it's a whole level, another level of accountability. The amount of people now that are looking at me, and if I did anything outside of being self-disciplined, my gosh, they'll let you know. You go have a donut in front of somebody, and they're like, "I thought you wrote a book on self-discipline."
Wow, what you do touch on something there, guys. When you write a book, you're putting out into the world your beliefs, your own standards. And what's cool about that is the universe starts to hold you accountable. So even by saying to the world, I'm going to write a book, 5 years, or let's just say 5 months from now, and the book doesn't come out, somebody who sees that post or heard you say that might ask you, wait, where's that book at? And then you feel that guilty conscience. So that has happened probably now. You actually wrote a book on self-discipline.
Yeah.
Have the universe hold you accountable. Yeah, when you put your thoughts out there, I think you probably are able to summarize things up of who you are, where you come from, and where you're going in a way that probably adds so much clarity to your life. So when you said to yourself, I'm going to write a book and put it down and put it out there for the world to read, what type of level of clarity did you have? You know, what you stood for, who you wanted to become 5 years from now? Because I always say clarity is a superpower. So did you experience the same? Um,
Yeah. I mean, more than anything, it just allowed me to really put down on paper what I really believed about certain things. And I was honestly a little scared to publish the book, because I was like, man, people are going to really know what I believe on, when it comes to fitness. If I see someone who's overweight, they're going to know that I think that they are lack discipline and somewhat lazy, and they need to raise their standards. If I meet somebody who's bad with their money and they're making less than six figures and they're broke, I'm going to be like, listen, man, like, you're God's highest form of creation, and we live in 2024. If you can't make a multiple six-figure income, if not seven-figure income, you're not trying. Like, at least if you're trying and on the journey, not everybody's there yet, but to just settle and be okay without trying, to me, is just like not living up to the full potential that God created you to be. And then the same thing with the fitness, like being out of shape is just saying, to me, it's disrespectful to the creator who created you. And you're just like, oh, screw this body you gave me. I'm just going to do what I want with it. So me putting my thoughts down on paper, it helped me with clarity in what I really believe. But it's like, dang, now people are going to look at me as being judgmental, because there's a lot of people out there who play the victim. And so I was like, man, people are going to really know what I believe when it comes to faith, when it comes to this stuff. And people who really knew me already knew, but there's a lot of people out there that don't really know us. It's just surface relationships. So I was a little nervous, you could say, to hear some of the feedback, but it's been pretty awesome so far.
You talk about faith, and when I think of you, that's the first word that comes to mind. I know you're a spiritual guy, and what I've realized is that my faith is very much responsible for my ability to stay in the game as an entrepreneur. And I think as time goes on, I realize that uh, I need to be living that everywhere I go, because if you don't, things start to spiral out of control. If I have faith in my business and my team and all that, but maybe some of the people I hang around outside of business doesn't really share my core values or whatnot, it seems like something goes out of whack and it's not in sync. And so by sharing my beliefs, my faith out there is one way to have others deselect me out of their life, right? Put it out there. And it's very much the Dr. Joe Dispenza philosophy. Your personality creates your personal reality. When you showcase your faith, you push away the people who do not align with you, but also you draw in the right people. And I think that has happened with you for sure, because I like seeing people who have very strong faith as much as I do. So, how much does faith play a factor in your business, in your health, in your finances? Because I think it really does tie into my life quite a bit. So, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, well, it holds me to a higher standard. I mean, that's for sure. You know, in the Bible, it talks about do unto whatever you do it as you're doing it unto the Lord. So, like for me, whatever I'm doing, I need to be doing it at the best of my ability, but also just for the simple fact that we all have a certain amount of talent in us and a certain amount of abilities. And I think so few people are even scratching the surface of their talent. I kind of say it's like the iPhone. Most people use it for text messaging and social media and phone calling, but there's so much more you can do with the iPhone. You could give that to someone who works at Apple and they could show you thousand other things that you can do with your iPhone that you're not using it for. You're just using the surface level stuff. And this kind of the same with our human potential. There's so much more that we are capable of doing. And sometimes it's just getting around other people or people who are playing at a bigger level, whether it's physically, financially, spiritually. And I try to have a mentor in each of those areas because I want to be the best I can be physically. One of my coaches, even though I am a fitness coach, I have a fitness coach, an IFBB professional fitness coach, because I want to know what he's coaching his clients, and I steal that information and I teach that to my clients. And then the same with the financial, having those guidelines. The same with spiritual, accountability partners, because it's so easy to get sidetracked and it's so easy in this world to get distracted. And so I think it's super important to have that faith aspect to kind of keep you centered and keep you aligned and keep you moral and keep you accountable, because it's easy to not be in this world.
Is there a story that sticks out in your mind of when your faith became very strong? And the reason why I ask that is because as you were talking, it made me think of when it wasn't that strong. I was raised Catholic my whole life, and I never really felt like I had a relationship with Jesus or with God. And it wasn't until my darkest days, in the worst time of my life, that I knelt down in front of a cross that I got from Rome when I was over there in Rome, whenever Pope John Paul II died, and it was blessed by him before he passed away. And I put it up on my wall, but this is years and years later that I'm sitting there. I'm about to go bankrupt, if you will. I'm about to lose my house. My electric bill's about to be hitting a max. It might be shut off, a gas bill. And I knelt down in front of the cross and I said to myself, or said to God, please, I know I'm not supposed to tempt you, but send me a sign that I'm supposed to be doing this book business. And this is in 2017. I left there, I went to my parents' house, and I got a call from a random person, and he said, I've been following you for a long time. I'd love to do a book with you. Where do I send the money? And he paid that night or that morning. And I thought to myself, that money kept my house, kept my electric bill, kept my gas bill on. That was the sign that I needed. And I felt like, God, I'm with you. You showed me the sign. I asked you, you delivered. And I started going to a non-denominational church. And it was right around that time that it all happened. But I felt like there was a relationship, and it was like, I got something now. I'm not doing this on my own. And that really helped me battle dragons and run through fire. So is there a moment like that for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was raised in the church and have had amazing pastors and youth pastors and people surrounding us. So I've always been fairly close in my faith. Mission trips, traveling the world. It's to the point where growing up is like, man, I kind of wish I had a story to tell. These people who weren't Christians and became Christians, and they had this amazing testimony. And I was like, yeah, I grew up in the church. I was homeschooled, and went to church 3 days a week, and then what happened was, life just kept going. But then I was married and was going through a divorce. And that's when I was starting to have that testimony that I really didn't want to have, but the one I was saying back then that I wish I had. But it was going through that divorce and going through the custody battle. And I just remember going through that custody battle and just praying that, God, if you want me to have them, then I know you'll provide it because in my situation, they weren't safe. You know, my ex struggled with addiction to prescription pills and alcohol that she got addicted to after the C-section and hysterectomy. So she was a phenomenal mother, and then things took a turn. We went through therapy, didn't work. So just a little backstory on that. But
Wow.
it got so bad she just changed as a person, and then we were going through this custody battle, and the courts, they'll do anything to give the kids to the mom, and so like it was 9 months of just beating my head against the wall, and finally I just prayed. I was like, God, I give it to you. You love these kids more than I do. I trust that whether I have them or I don't have them, you're going to protect them. And then literally 2 weeks later, her mom wrote an affidavit for me. The babysitter wrote an affidavit for me. One of her other friends wrote an affidavit for me to get the kids. And then I got sole custody of the kids, and I've had sole custody for the last 7.5 years. And that's a God thing because I couldn't have done that.
Oh my God. That's amazing. And it's almost as if like your faith is truly tested only when things are going wrong, right? It's that ground zero moment that Carl Jung talks about in his books that you need that ground zero moment to kind of wake yourself up to who you really are, but how much do you really believe? And when don't look right or things are going wrong or the chips are down, that exposes you to your true character. And once you see that true character, you could build on a solid foundation. And usually, ground zero moments show you the pathway of truth. And that's what happened, it seems like.
Yeah.
So you're a Jordan Peterson fan. You're a Carl Jung guy, I think. Clinical psychology. You know, have you always been one of these guys? Because the more I understand myself, the more I understand business, in my opinion, the more I understand the marketplace. So it always begins with the internal mind first rather than the externals. And I think that personal development is absolutely a must. And I always say this entrepreneurship is a personal development journey disguised as a business journey. So when you talk about the self disciplined man, are you always teaching, hey, focus on more books to read, getting around other high level people, using social media, not being used by it to get around the right people, learn the right information. So personal development, obviously a huge part of you, but has it always been? And so who do you look up to? Who do you read? Who do you pay attention to more than anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I got into personal development when I got into the network marketing industry, the whole NL.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So I was a personal trainer in like now I'm an online coach, but back then I was an in-person personal trainer. And this guy was coming into the gym to sell us on this vitamin supplement. And my mom had done Shackley and Amway, Mary Kay, all that stuff back in the day. So I was like, I want nothing to do with that. Last thing I want to do is pitch my friends on a vitamin supplement. So I said no. He left some product for us to try, then brought in their new product, which was a healthy energy drink. So it was 2 ounces of the liquid vitamin put into a can with 8 ounces of natural water or whatever. So it was just basically liquid vitamin with carbonated water. And it was a healthy energy drink. And he left it there for us. And I drank it. I liked it. So I went to him and said, where can I order this? And he said, you just order it online. So I just ordered it online. And then he tells me, I had a friend that wanted some because I had friends drinking Red Bull, Monster, Rockstar, all this stuff. And they said, where can I get the healthy one? And I was like, I don't know. I just got it online. And the guy said, well, everybody gets a free website. Even if you're a customer, you get a free website and you share the website. That's how the product gets put out. So I just started sharing that free website. And then people started ordering it, and I started making $20 and $40 and $50. And before I knew it, I was making $2,000 a month in a network marketing thing that I had no intentions of joining because I just liked the product. And then they have conventions every year. So that's when they invited me to a convention. And I went to the convention, and all they do there is personal development and these things. And so I tell people, maybe don't get into network marketing or MLM for the business side, but it's basically a personal school and personal development. You get to be around people who are dreamers and people who are trying to get better. You're around free mentorship because these people want you to make money because they make money. So you get free mentorship. And I've had some of the best mentors and I even thanked them in the book through this company. And it just was a phenomenal experience. That's where I met Darren Hardy. And that's where I met Eric Thomas. I did a podcast with Eric Thomas, E.T., the hip hop preacher, and just so many of these great speakers I got to meet. And so that personal development, I took that all the way through. Like even now, I'm reading the book a week because I want to constantly be learning. The one thing I will say is I'm now finally at 40 years old, and after 20 years of personal development, I'm doing what you just mentioned. I'm slowly making that shift from consuming content to starting to create content. And I
Yes.
think that was the big thing I was missing was the know-how, the ability, the tech setup, all that stuff, being scared of what people might think of me and judge me. But it's like consuming content's good, but then it just stays with you unless you turn it around and you deliver it in a unique way or a way that maybe you can reach other people that other people won't. So that's what I'm in the process now is doing exactly what you said.
Man, great point there. Yeah, you need to become a creator rather than just a consumer. And it does complete the hero's journey. Once you do something that other people deem as inspiring, it's your moral obligation to turn around and help them do the exact same thing. And that's what you can do through social media and books and podcasts. Uh, so, one question I have when it comes to individuals who struggle with self discipline, what is the major root cause that you've realized? And the way I look at it, it comes down to either one of two things, right? It's either they don't want it bad enough or something is not scaring them enough to actually create some type of action in their life. And there's a great study that Jordan Peterson talks about when it comes to individuals are more motivated by fears than wants. And so I think that we're all afraid of something. It just depends on what you're afraid of. In my opinion, I'm afraid of other individuals or government entities or health corruption controlling my life. So therefore, I use that fear to create this independence, to take care of my health at a higher degree. So I think we're all afraid of something. It's just how you use it. And obviously, in the Bible, it talks about do not be afraid 365 times, one for each day, which is just so fascinating to me. But being afraid, I'm not afraid of the next life or, saying your true beliefs. It's being afraid of potentially not having your dreams come to fruition or not being the true version of yourself. That keeps me up at night. So I use fear as a motivator. Do you think it comes down to one of those two pathways?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's different. So I would say you're right. I think most people are motivated by fear, but that also is the same thing that paralyzes them. Fear of rejection and fear of failure is what causes most people to not even try. So they say fear of failure has still more dreams than actual failure because people just don't even try. So I think it's different for different people. For me, my motivating factor has always been wanting to make my parents proud and wanting to honor God and be the best I can be. And so like that's always been my biggest motivating factor is just working hard so they can see me and that I'm making them proud and I'm honoring them. But yeah, I know other people that it's the fear that does motivate them. So it's different. But to your question on why most people aren't self-disciplined, I think that, well, one, there could be multiple reasons, but I think people don't really have enough self-respect. They
Ooh,
don't have enough respect for themselves and or their loved ones. Like I see an overweight man who has kids. When I say overweight, not 10, 20, 30 pounds, but an obese person with kids and a wife. And I'm like, how do you not love them enough and respect them enough to get in shape so that you can live long enough to really see their kids and see them get married? I had a best friend die from COVID because he was obese. This same guy that died at 38 from COVID was in a natural bodybuilding show with me when we were 19. We were the same age, 19 years old, 164 pounds is what we did the natural bodybuilding show. And then here we were years later, and he was 100. I think he got to 340 pounds. So, he was almost 200 pounds over his weight. And that is what caused him to pass away from COVID, just because the obesity was the number one factor of people dying from COVID. It was like if you just took away the obese people who passed away from COVID, it really didn't affect very many people. And so, like, when I see that and I just see people that have such little respect for themselves and their loved ones that they're not willing to get disciplined, then for them, it's really trying to create that why. Why should you? Why should you do what you need to do? And for some people, they just don't care. It's shocking to me. It's absolutely shocking to me the amount of people that you can say all this stuff to them. They just honestly, they don't want to change. They're comfortable. Their comfort zone sucks them in. But those aren't the people I'm looking for when I'm looking to coach with people. I'm looking for people who want more out of life, people who know they have more potential. They haven't been living up to their potential, and they need me to hold them accountable until they become disciplined, and then those discipline become habits. So now we're not even thinking about what they're doing. They just do it. I don't have to think about waking up and going to the gym and being disciplined. It's just who I am. It's what I do. But other people, I got to hold them accountable through the discipline until it becomes a habit. And so that's what I like to do. I have to make men become the best versions of themselves.
And you touch on how your body's a temple. If you're born in the likeness and image of God, it's why are you not taking care of it as if it is a temple? Because it is, right? That's it. Eh,
And the other thing is it's our only body. I mean, you have a nice car. I love nice cars. We got about 27 classic cars in our car collection with my dad and my brothers, and we love cars. But imagine if you only had one car for your entire life. How well would you take care of that car? You would change the tires, you would do the oil filter, you would do everything. You would take such good care of it. But we only have one body, and people don't take good care of their body. It's shocking to me.
My God, I didn't know you had 27. What's your favorite one?
Whew, that's a hard one, man. I don't know. The one I guess I like driving the most is the Cuda. That it's just a little muscle car, fun to get into. But we got some more unique ones that are more unique than that. But the Cuda is probably that. And my 30th anniversary '99 Trans Am T top. Brings you back to the '90s.
Wow, 90. You said it's an what year Trans Am?
'99.
99. Oh my God, my friend had one of those. Yeah, the T-tops. Did it leak like a sieve? Is that right? Those things leak like crazy.
Yeah, they can. We just leave it off. We don't drive them in the rain. So any cars that we have that are convertibles or T tops, we just leave them off. We have them all in our warehouse.
Oh, that's great, man. Wow. Uh, and I think that another aspect of my discipline comes from anger. Now, I think we're given emotions to so they can
Right.
be used in the right manner. I think, you know, if you read the Bible, God, he's an angry God at certain points, right? So we're given in this anger. If used in the right manner, we will, use it as a benefit. It'll be an asset. So when I look back at some of the times when I wasn't disciplined in my life, when it comes to schedule, my drinking habits, who I was surrounding myself with, I don't think I was angry enough. I was very docile. I was able to be pushed around. But whenever I did all the right things and still didn't end up with the girl or woke up broke or didn't get the job or the business wasn't working, I got all this anger and I used this anger. I could have used it in the bad way and did some really evil things that were going through my mind, or I use it as a launch pad to creating the new identity. And thank God I used it in the right manner. But I needed that anger. And I said, every once in a while, I'll fall back on it. But it's there for a reason. That helps me become more disciplined in every aspect. So is that something you teach, or is there another way to look at it? Or what would you say about that?
No, I mean, I think that's a great way to look at it. Just emotions in general. I typically tell people especially when I'm dealing with men, I say your emotions are signals to you. If you're feeling shame or you're feeling guilt, you're doing something wrong. So don't feed into it, but figure out what that is and then adjust. If you're feeling depressed or you're feeling anxiety, figure out what that is. These are alarm bells going off in your internal body saying something's wrong. Let's figure out what it is and let's fix it. The problem is most men don't fix it. They drown their sorrows. They have coping mechanisms instead of facing things head on. And so there's two things I tell men if they want to become really good or like what I call self mastery is they have to become self aware. It's amazing how little people are. They are not self aware with their bodies, with their habits. And that's why I'm really big on journaling and tracking because unless you do that, you can't become self aware. So that's number one. The second thing is a man who can handle his and regulate his emotions. Hear your emotions, listen to your emotions, but learn how to react. Just like you were saying, you get angry or whatever the emotion is, but it's what you do with it can determine your success or failure. So if men can do those two things, man, become self-aware and learn to handle and manage their emotions in the correct way, dude, they can become unstoppable.
Damn straight. Now, you talk about the key aspects of our lives: faith, family, fitness, and finances. Sounds like it might be in that order. Is that right? Where you have to have your faith strong, right? The ability to pursue greatness, go after what you want, accomplish those dreams does require faith, but also faith that you are living in accordance to your true purpose, your true self in accordance with God. But family, those around you need to take care of to any degree as much as possible. And then fitness, taking care of yourself. I think a lot of people look at this as being selfish. Why would you know, make sure you get enough sleep or eat accordingly, eat healthy and go to the gym? Isn't that selfish? You're taking care of yourself. if you don't have great health, how could you help others, right? It always starts with the self, and then finances. And maybe finances is basically a byproduct of having your purpose in alignment with the servitude mindset. And I saw this great definition, and maybe it was about capitalism, but it's wealth through servitude, right? And the moment you have your faith in line, maybe that's whenever you have the service mindset. And if you have the service mindset, maybe that is one way to wealth. And I think it's all connected. So faith, family, fitness, finances, is it in that order? And is there anything else that I'm missing out on that?
No, yeah, it's definitely in that order for me. It kind of goes intertwined though, because like your family's ahead of your fitness, but if you love your fitness, family, you're going to be fit. So it can kind of, it's kind of like when you have it all down, you're doing them all. Like it's all, instead of the like linear, it's, straight up and down because you're doing them all at the same time. And I think that's what's important is not leaving a part of it out. The one that is the least important to me is the finances, only because I've been on so many mission trips to third world countries and I've seen some of the happiest people in the world who are healthy, they have good relationships, they have good spiritual. So for me, the financial side is something that shouldn't be pursued in the sense of pursuing money, but pursuing your purpose and figuring out a way to monetize your purpose or monetize your passion or monetize really what you're good at, because then the money will come. But if you're so focused on pursuing the money, then that becomes the sole focus, and that's when these people lose their relationships with their spouse and their kids because they're working too much or they're not healthy. They're skipping the gym and they're eating fast food because they're working too much. So I think that if we focus on the faith, family, and fitness, the financial side kind of comes too. Now you got to be aware of what you're doing, and you got to be precise. You can't just not do anything at all. You got to be on a journey and have a path, but it shouldn't be pursued for the financial gain solely.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, yeah, you're right though. Finances would be the last step there because I have been around some really, really, really wealthy people and they're not happy. So that doesn't mean it's automatically money leads to happiness. I've met some very poor people and they are very, very, very happy with their lives. So you're right. It's a byproduct, but it does create options and opportunity. And if you have your purpose in alignment, you got your faith, your family, and your bodies, you have the health, you're independent, and you have money, then you can use that money for good. And therefore you can create more freedom for those in your life and those you love. It's awesome. So, if there's one takeaway from this book, when they pick it up, is there any great ingredient that you want them to implement? Whether it's like the miracle morning, creating a great habit before 9 a.m. or start to take your spiritual side more seriously. What is one nugget that you want your readers to leave with?
Well, I mean, I guess if there's one thing from the book, I would tell people that they need to figure out what they want their identity to be. So pretend like you have no identity right now, whether you're successful, not successful, fat, in shape, doesn't matter. What's the identity that you want? Like, what is that ultimate identity? Because I was telling someone the other day, the best version of you is in shape. The best version of you is debt free. The best version of you is a philanthropist who's a giver and they're generous with their money. The best version of you is a phenomenal husband and a phenomenal dad. That's the best version of you. So if you're not those things, you're not the best version of you. And that should be the pursuit. How can I become the absolute best version of myself? And it's a journey. It's not a destination per se, but it's a journey. And everybody's best version of them is different. Not everybody's going to be a Mr. Olympia bodybuilder. Not everybody's going to be a Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg. So you don't have to be a billionaire, but the best version of you is likely better than where you are right now. And the way to get there is becoming self-disciplined.
It's great. Outside of your own book, is there one that stands out in your life that really changed the way you think of things or maybe put you on this path? I always say Rich Dad Poor Dad is the one that put me in the game of business. So I thank that book and I thank Kiyosaki. Is there one like that for you?
Yeah, I mean, Robert Kiyosaki, I mean, I read that book when I was 16. That's another thing where you read it, but yet you don't apply it.
Yeah.
But I
At
did.
16, I don't think I would have understood it that at that point, just so you know. I
But
was
the whole
22.
the whole quadrants, employer, self-employed, business owner, like just making your way around that quadrant till you become an investor. I think that was pretty cool. But honestly, as cheesy as it sounds or as overdone as it sounds, I always say the Bible, and I say for a couple of reasons. Most people don't understand the Bible. They hear you say Bible and they think you're just trying to be a good Christian or spiritual. I say the Bible because it's 66 books written by 40 different authors over a span of 1,500 years. It has over 65,000 cross references going back and forth in the book. And it's the best selling book of all time. And it's that for a reason. You can go to one book, Proverbs, and learn all about wisdom. You can go to another book and learn about how to spend your finances. You can go to different books on how you should act, how you should respond to life circumstances, like Job. Like, it's one of those books that you don't know until you start reading what's in there. And then you start reading it and you start applying it to your life. And you're like, wow, this is why it's the best selling book. Not because it's some religion that's pushed on people, it's because it's made the biggest impact. And there's so many people that may listen to this right now that have a Bible in their house and they haven't opened it up in
Yep.
years. And so for me, I leave it out on my dining room table because I do my devotional every morning with my three kids because I want them to see me doing it and I want them to know that it's who we are, it's what we do. We read the Bible, we pray, we commune with our Creator because that's the only way we can find purpose. A lot of people are searching for purpose, but you don't determine your own purpose. A creator who creates a thing determines the purpose of that thing. So if we're created and you're not in tune with your creator, how can you know your purpose? And that's what I tried to tell people. It's like, if you're missing out the spiritual side because you're too lazy or you just don't believe in God, you're missing it all because you can't know your purpose without connecting the one who created you with the purpose.
Oh, man. Let's clip that right there because that is a phenomenal way to put it. And I've always said, take two different people. One person believes in God wholeheartedly, the other person doesn't. Who would you bet on finishing that marathon or winning that race or winning in a battle? I'm always going to bet on the person who believes in God. Why? Because they don't feel like they are alone, right? And so even if you're out there and you're saying, man, this whole religion thing, I'm not wholeheartedly into it. I'm telling you, the people that I've seen do the most, feel the best, with the greatest sense of abundance, always has that strong faith attached to them. So, man, what a game changer. And I think it's a competitive advantage. So I'm with you. And I like how you put it. You don't know your purpose. You were given a purpose, right? And so once you're connected to your faith, maybe that purpose will shine through a lot easier. Oh, not
Yeah.
many people say it in that way. I like that. So, Richard, outside of the book, is there a way to get in touch with you, a website or a social media channel that you recommend?
Yep. Well, you guys are helping me with the website and funnel, so that will be up soon. It will be theselfdisciplinedman.com. But until then, you can find me on Instagram at Richard Bischoff, Facebook. Pretty easy to find me, and I'd love to connect with anybody who has resonated with anything that we've talked about on this podcast.
Yeah, he's a good guy, guys, and really knows his stuff. He is true, authentic, and we're starting to see this transformation. He's putting himself out there in the book and on social media. And this time next year, he's going to be an absolute animal all over Google and social media. So I can't wait to see the evolution. But the Self-Disciplined Man, best-selling book on Amazon. You could pick it up today on Kindle paperback hardcover, and it is the life hack few are using. So look him up, Richard Bischoff, easy to find. And remember, $1 million book will lead to $1 million life. Right on.